Welcome to Session 2 of the 2020 Global Marathon. My name is Mimi Irvin, and I'm the chair and host of this year's Global Marathon. I'm excited to dive into today's session, which is all about believing in yourself and having confidence in your ideas and contributions. As you might remember, the 2020 Global Marathon is all about the factors that help women persist in engineering and technology. Believing with confidence that you have the knowledge and skills to succeed is a critical characteristic shared by women who persevere in the field. Today's speakers will talk about how they've built their career confidence and continue to assert a strong belief in themselves. Let's introduce our incredible speakers. Janan Dagdevaran directs the Conformable Decoders Research Group at the MIT Media Lab and was named a top 30 under 30 in science by Forbes in 2015. Her work to design conformable devices that can take ultrasound images, measure hand tremors, or deliver neural drugs for studying Parkinson's disease, to name a few, has been recognized by the Smithsonian, BBC News, New Scientist, and more. Please join me in welcoming Janan.
My name is Janan Dagdevaran. I am originally from Istanbul, Turkey, and currently I am an assistant professor at MIT Media Lab, and I direct a research group called Conformable Decoders. As a young child, grown up in Istanbul, I had a mission, and I spent playtime smashing up rocks in order to find the atoms inside, and everybody was telling me that it was an impossible task, but at least I confirmed my passion in science. And my supportive father gifted me a book about Madame Curie. I think he thought I would be inspired by her, but when I read the book, I fell in love. Madame Curie's husband, Pierre Curie, who discovered piezoelectricity. And I decided to study physics and trying to understand the underlying mechanisms of piezoelectricity. And except my mom, everybody told me that physics is difficult, women cannot study physics, I may not find a job, and the questions that I'm dealing with in physics area would be so challenging for me as a woman. But I didn't give up, and I pursued, and with the support of my amazing mother, I studied physics and learned about piezoelectricity. So piezo means stress-strain deformation, and electric means positive and negative charges. So when you mechanically deform a piezoelectric material, you produce voltage and current. And you can use this to create sensors, actuators, transducers, mechanical energy harvesters. And for me, all these devices are for biomedical applications, for the people whom I haven't met, but for the people who are having severe medical conditions. But while I was studying physics, I realized that just knowing the physics is not completely enough. I need to learn more about the materials because we have lots of piezoelectric materials in the universe, and we need to find the best and optimum material for the favorable outcomes of our desired applications. And I decided to study material science and engineering and to learn more about the materials, their properties, conditions, and most importantly, I wanted to learn how I can use these materials and design and develop new ways of medical devices which are not available in market or in the literature. And then I had my master's degree in material science and engineering with full scholarship. And then in 2009, it was the first time Fulbright was giving PhD fellowships in my home country, Turkey. And I was named one of the top in material science and engineering field. And I came to US and started my PhD journey. Of course, before applying and selecting the schools that I would like to go in, I search a lot because I had a dream, and I wanted to make a device which can convert mechanical energy into electrical energy to run biomedical devices, because my research and my dream actually had a personal tone. When I was 6 years old, I learned that my grandfather, whom I never met, passed away because of heart failure at the age of 28. And as a young kid, I promised myself that I would do something for heart patients to tackle the severe conditions. Initially, I didn't know how, but of course, over time, my ideas and my dreams evolved, and I learned more during my college degree and master's degree. But then it was not enough. I had to get an expertise in piezoelectric materials, and I need to know how to make those biomedical devices in flexible and stretchable formats. And then I got admissions from University of Illinois, along with many other amazing universities. And I remember my friends were asking me, why you don't go to MIT and Harvard? Why you are going to Illinois? And I was like, okay, I'll go to MIT and Harvard later on. Don't worry. But I am not choosing this university. I am choosing my advisor because I have a dream and I really want to do it. And I'm so glad I did that. I remember still my first meeting with John Rogers. He was actually proposing me to work on another idea, another project. But he didn't know that I have a dream project in my mind. And I told him that usually students do not say no to their advisors. But I had courage to say, no, I don't want to work on it. I want to work on piezoelectric materials, and I really want to make those devices flexible, stretchable, so that we can wrap and place affix on internal organs or skin and so forth. And he was like, but we don't have anyone in my group who works on piezoelectricity, so it will be very challenging for you. Do you think you can do it? And my answer was, PhD is a long journey. I think I can do it, and I really want to try it. And he was very supportive. 3 years, none of my projects worked. And back to Turkey, I really received and gained great theoretical knowledge, but very minimal practical knowledge. I didn't know how to handle a wafer, silicon wafer. I didn't know how to spin. I didn't know how to combine the materials. It was so hard for me. And by the way, I was one of the few female scientists, researchers in John Rogers' research group. And whenever I asked a question, I was rarely getting an answer from my male colleagues. And instead of being sad and going back to my home country, I took a chair and went to the lab and sat on it and observed people from morning till night, and for months. And then over time, I developed my recipes, and I work with amazing young minds, undergrad students. And the last 2 years of my PhD, we work with speed of light, and we publish amazing papers. And finally, when I reached my dream age, 28, in which my grandfather passed away, he passed away at 28, and I promised that I would do something for heart patients when I reached the same age, 28, and I did it. My research was published, and it was recognized by Illinois Innovation Prize. I made great amount of money as a PhD student. It was very good. And I filed patent, and I work with amazing people all around the world. And then after I'm done with my PhD, I was accepted as a postdoc to MIT Koch Institute for Cancer Research. And I had privilege to work with Bob Langer, who is an amazing scientist, who is the most cited engineer in history. And he's also amazing. And I, this time, worked on an implantable device for brain application. And I should also note that many scientists are inspired by nature, whereas my research is inspired by the diseases of my family members and dear friends. I try to come up with different types of device technologies which can help this individual's medical conditions. When I joined Bob Langer's group, my aunt actually passed away because of a brain tumor, and at a very early age. And she was very dear to me. She was the one and only aunt of mine, and I, even though I had no understanding about brain, I wanted to tackle and work on that project. And I have been very lucky to work with amazing scientists at MIT, at Harvard, and we developed a needle type device. And this time we implanted in the brain, deep brain, to infuse multiple drugs on demand. And they are all remotely controllable. We can simply send a code through computer and change your behavior within seconds and infuse drugs to the tumors or so forth. Around that time, I was named as a junior fellow in the Society of Fellows at Harvard University as being the first Turkish in history. And beyond my personal success, I had an amazing opportunity to represent my beautiful country, Turkey. And it was I would say it's the best job ever. And you get to meet with amazing people from different fields. And usually 12 junior faculties are selected every year. And hundreds of people are nominated. And John Rogers actually nominated me. And 20 years back from his nomination, he was a junior fellow. And after 20 years, I became the junior fellow by following his footprint. So for me, it was so great. But there was an issue at that time because I got the fellowship, and it's usually for 3 years. And the same time, summer 2015 was my first summer at MIT, and I wanted to organize a workshop and invite big names in my field so that I can get to know them in person rather than just reading their papers. And it worked out, and people came to MIT, and the venue was the 6th floor of the Media Lab, and I knew so little about MIT Media Lab. As an organizer, I gave a little talk, like 15-minute talk, and then one of the Media Lab faculty came and asked if I can give a more comprehensive talk and talk about my inventions. And I said, yeah, sure, it's just 1 block away. I'll come and give a talk. After a month, I gave a talk without knowing that it was the job talk. And right after the talk, I got the offer. And as you may remember, I said initially people were thinking I would not get a job because I studied physics, but even I didn't apply for the job. And I got the offer and invitation for the talk. And but there was a slight issue because I was named as a junior fellow and I was supposed to do my fellowship. So I did a negotiation between MIT and Harvard. And then a year later, I started my position at the Media Lab in January 2017. January 16 of 2017, it was the Martin Luther King Day. So I remember very vividly. And as he had a dream, I had a dream too. In my lab, I wanted to create a lab which is physically transparent. Because when I was in Illinois, as you may remember, I said I was one of the few female scientists in the group. And I I asked questions and I rarely get answers. So what I did observation. I observe people, how they use their hands, how they do devices, how do they do their processes. And then I promised myself, I said in future, if I have a chance to build my own lab, I'll make it physically transparent, made of glass walls so that anyone can see through whatever we do inside a clean room without taking any permissions or trainings. And my dream came true this time as well. And I made a very sophisticated lab. It's called Clean Room. It's a clean lab for our device purposes. And I have a nickname for it, which is Yellow Box, because it's a yellow color. From outside, you see it's a yellow, kind of a yellow box. And my lab is physically transparent. Now I have students, high school students, primary school students, or any researchers, any visitors. They sit by the window and they check what we do inside the clean room without taking any permissions. And for me personally, it's great because I work in my dream. And I walk by my dream every morning when I come to my office. And I train and mentor my students in my dream laboratory. It has been almost 3 years that I have started launched my group here at the Media Lab. And I have students from various countries, and not only we blend art and science, we also blend our culture in the device platforms that we create. We make them colorful, we make them personalized, we make them customizable so that any individuals, and we also make them visually invisible. In case you don't want any electronics to be seen from outsiders, we can camouflage it. So, and our main goal in my group right now is that we want to decode the magic of the entire universe that we have inside ourselves. Once, Rumi, an amazing Sufis, who studied Sufism in Turkey centuries ago, he said, "Do not feel lonely. The entire universe is inside you." So we have the same mindset. We would like to decode and understand how our body parts to talking each other, and how we can convert biological language into electrical language, and how we can create smart interfaces between patients and medical doctors, and how we can make these devices comfortable so that patients or any individuals can wear these devices for a longer period of time and create big data and use this big data and understand what's happening in their body parts. To me, we live in an ocean of physical patterns: heartbeats, respiration, neuronal activity, peristaltic forces in GI tract, or dry patch of skin. They are all saying something important, speaking the unique language of the body. And it's a lexicon that's completely different from Turkish and English that I speak every day. But it's one I believe we need to start translating in earnest so that we can create personalized medicine. Because today's medicine is kind of a pajama type. You can wear your mom's, dad's pajama. It doesn't need to fit on you. It can be loose. But we would like to make like suit type medicine. It will fit on you. It will have an intimate connection with your body parts. And it will kind of translate all these physical patterns into electrical patterns so that we can understand and make better treatments. Initially, I had a dream as an individual, and I had people who supported me along the way. And now I'm trying to do the same for the upcoming people, the young minds. For instance, first time ever in the lobby of Media Lab, I launched an art exhibition. In that art exhibition, I talk about how we do get inspiration from nature and the people in our life, and how we create devices to tackle their medical conditions. And because the struggles that we face every day in academia, in lab, or in personal life can be turned into something beautiful. So I would like to communicate how we do science through blending art, media, and science all together with people, individuals in my group, and hopefully all around the world. Not only physically we are transparent, we are also intellectually transparent. I share all our device videos in our YouTube channels. We use social media very, very aggressively. We share our papers openly so that any individual can reach out and see what we do. Because I do believe we should encourage young kids, young generation, so that we can live in a better universe and we can make everything in a fair way. No matter who you are, where you come from, our main goal is to encourage majority of people, if possible, so that we can get together and do great science to help individuals who even we don't know.
Megan Eddings is a biochemist and entrepreneur. After over a decade working as an internationally recognized sales representative, Megan went on to become the founder and CEO of Assert Lifestyle, the first ethical fitness apparel brand that uses a smell-repelling fabric that is now patent pending in 120 countries. Megan considers herself a positivity enthusiast and loves to inspire and motivate others to be persistent and resilient. Let's welcome Megan Eddings.
Hi, my name is Megan Eddings. I'm the founder and CEO of Assert Lifestyle. We are the first ethical, sustainable, anti-stink, antibacteria workout clothing. Born and raised in Rhode Island, that small little state up in the Northeast that people usually think is part of New York, and it's not. We're in our own state. And in 10th grade, I actually took my first general chemistry class. And I remember they called it like the H method or the Punnett square, and I thought it was so cool. It was almost like a puzzle. And my teacher was wonderful, Mrs. Sullivan, and it was just so inspiring to see this awesome woman who was into science. Because when I was younger, I always thought, well, boys go into science and boys go into math. But I just fell in love with chemistry in 10th grade, so much so that during breaks, I asked my teacher, can I come back and help clean the beakers and learn more about, chemistry? So it was probably in 10th grade that I decided that science would be my life. I had no idea what that would look like. My parents did not go to college, and a lot of people in my family didn't go, so I didn't really know what that looked like to get a degree in college and then go on to some big science, corporate, whatever. I'm from a small town in Rhode Island, so the biggest thing to happen to our town was actually Walmart. So I didn't really have anyone to look up to. I didn't have any Instagram accounts to follow, any LinkedIn or YouTube to kind of look at other women or people that look like me with similar interests. But I just said, I'm kind of just going to go for it. So in 11th grade is when I started looking at colleges, and I said, I've always had this thirst for something different, whether it be, science or just something outside of Rhode Island. So I applied to a bunch of colleges, and all on the East Coast, so kind of close to home, but not too far away. And I ended up going to University of Virginia, which is where I got my chemistry degree. And so I went to UVA literally thinking that I'm going to go in, I'm going to get a chemistry degree, and I love teeth. I'm going to be an orthodontist. And so I'm like, I love chemistry, so I'll use my science background. Of course, I'll have the biology and all of that, but I'm going to be an orthodontist because they make loads of money. And growing up, we didn't have any money. My dad made about $26,000 a year. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I have two brothers. So we never knew we were poor. We never knew, but I knew that this value of money and I can buy things, and someday I'll have a house with 2 bathrooms is something that I could strive for if I, became an orthodontist. And then I found out how much schooling is required for orthodontist, and I thought, I don't know about being in someone's mouth the rest of my life. So all through college at UVA, I was studying chemistry, and I never wavered from the major. I never knew where it would take me in terms of my career path, but I just know that I have a passion for things that are happening all around us that I cannot see. And that to me is biochemistry, chemistry, physics, but specifically chemistry. After orthodontia was not going to be a thing, because I'm like, that's not for me, I said, it's funny about life, and life always kind of throws you curveballs, and I always empower people, and I didn't do this back then, I was young, I was 19, but I always empower people to keep your eyes open to what God or the universe kind of has lined up for you, and just be open to it. So my roommate at the time in college, Catherine Baxter, one of my best buds, sister I never had, she was diagnosed with cancer. And she and I both had the same degree. We were the sisters, joined at the hips, and same degree, same major, same hobbies, everything. And so when she was diagnosed with cancer, I thought to myself, okay, I love science, lab, cancer. I'm going to run my own cancer research lab. That's what I'm going to do. So I started working in the lab at UVA, and I designed 3D modeling, a lot of 3D computer work, like proteins, et cetera, and how they affect cancer cells. And so I did that for a while, and I loved it. And then fast forward, unfortunately, Catherine passed away. And so now I was really committed to find a cure for cancer. So after UVA, I went to Brown University back in Rhode Island, where I'm from. I found a professor there who specifically focused on various proteins and how they affect the cancer, various cancer, cells. And so I did that for a while, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I walked out, I had my white lab coat on, the sun's hitting me in the face, and I was like, oh snap, what am I doing? I can't be confined to a lab the rest of my life. It's not my personality. So I really had a lot of internal struggle about that. because I dedicated my life, or so I thought, in my early 20s to finding a cure for cancer. But I was exhausted every day, just, in a lab the whole time. But I still always loved science. And I randomly, nothing's random, met this guy who worked for NIH, the National Institute of Health, and he said, you'd be great in this thing called medical equipment sales. You get to make great money. I love fashion. You get to dress cute, company car, company phone, company computer, because I didn't have a lot of money. So I'm like, holy smokes, what is this? So that's actually what brought me to Houston. So I worked for Siemens Medical for years, selling MRI machines, CAT scan machines, et cetera. And I know, and I was told that I got that job, Siemens, being so young with really no sales experience because I had such a challenging major, and I had a major in science and chemistry. If I would have had a non-science, math-based major, I'm sure they would never have given me the time of day. So always follow your passion. If you love science, you love engineering, technology, math, major in it, and you will find your way in doing things that you love. And I'm telling you, it's probably going to change 10 times at least throughout your life, but you'll always find something. So I moved down here to Houston, sold MRI machines, absolutely loved it. I love sales. And then I met this guy on a blind date 7 years ago. He's physics. So obviously our first date, our blind date, he's physics, I'm chemistry. He's so good looking. And I'm like, this is just so cool. We're like two science nerds. And we ended up getting married. And I started washing his workout clothes, which were stinky. So I have two brothers back home, and we've always been super into fitness. So physical fitness has always been part of my being. I remember growing up in our small house, Dad would be in the basement, just always hammering away at like the box, at the punching bag, just to kind of let out his frustrations. The house would be shaking. We're like, oh, Dad's home. So anyway, I met Kyle, and so we grew up in a fitness-minded family. Started washing his workout clothes, and they stunk. But he didn't. He actually, to the day, showers more than I do. But he had that dry fit, wicking polyester material that we're all used to wearing because it feels great and breathes with you, but it just holds on to the bacteria. I didn't know at the time, 5 years ago, the detailed reason of why our clothes, our socks, all that smells. If you pick up your teenage boys, or you are a teenage boy, and you get in the car and your mom's yelling that everything smells, like I didn't understand why, and now I do. So 5 years ago, I just started researching why clothes smell. And because of my sales background and my personality, I've always been forthcoming with asking questions. I've always been an inquisitive person. So I would literally Google these yarn and fabric scientists on the East Coast, and I would just call them up. I didn't know anything about really fabric, but I would ask them science questions on why clothes smell, and we would have these conference calls, and all of these people, I will be forever grateful to them, donated their time. They never charged me $1 for all these conference calls for me to understand where the smell comes from. I basically used my love. I put my science hat back on, and I invented fabric. It took me a little over 3 years. It was a lot of trial and tribulation. With my type A personality, I'm like, oh, I'll have this fabric done in about 8 months. We'll be launched. Lululemon will carry us in a year. And it took a little over 3 years to perfect the fabric. And it's called Prima, and it's anti-stink and antibacteria. And it's patent pending in 120 countries. And it's all because of that 10th grade science class. I could tell you where I was sitting in the classroom. We had a science seating. I don't know if they still do. That I loved chemistry, and literally that gave me the confidence and just the questions to ask in my early 30s to start the process of developing this antibacteria fabric. So I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. I didn't really have a lot of entrepreneurs in my life to ask questions to, or to kind of look at their lifestyle. And I say entrepreneurship kind of found me. I've always had, obviously, the love for science, and I've always had the comfort level to ask for help. And I say basically Kyle's stinky workout clothes is what prompted me down the path to invent the fabric. So the really cool thing I tell everybody about life is just to be open to situations that happen all around you. And if you see something, this is my now entrepreneurial mind, didn't even know I had it, but if you see something that you think could be improved upon, whether it's a service or a product, nonprofit or a for-profit company, don't assume it already exists. And if something does exist like that, there's always a different way that you can spin it and kind of make it your own and start your own company. So I always tell people, just to really go after it. If you have an idea, don't just sit on the idea. At least go to the internet and see if anything out there exists like that. And that's what I did when I was starting with Excel Lifestyle. I didn't have the idea, I'm going to create this global patent pending fabric, and then I quit my corporate job Oh, no, 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 no. I did my corporate job, Siemens, for about 8 more months while morning, noon, night, parking lots. I was working on developing the fabric with the team on the East Coast. And my husband basically, he's like, Meg, he's like, hear me out. He's like, what if you quit your current job and you just pursue, I already had a name and a logo, you pursue Excel Lifestyle full time. And I remember I had this feeling, kind of a similar feeling that I had when I walked out of Brown that day. Like this, almost like this weight was lifted, like this is not the path for me. And I thought, Kyle, you're exactly right. I'm just going to go for it. So I set up my plan, because you always have to be strategic about when you quit your corporate job to start your own company. So financially, I wanted to make sure that I was set up and we were set up. I started just asking a lot of questions, listening to a lot of podcasts, reading a lot of business books. The first book I ever picked up was Start Something That Matters by the gentleman that started Tom's Shoes, because I always, in everything I do, I always want to do something of giving back, and just whatever that looks like, just volunteering or giving part of the proceeds. I didn't really know what that looked like back then, but I read the book and I thought, okay, this guy is super successful, and he developed these shoes, and his story is not really a glamorous story. So I'm thinking, if he can do it, I can do it. And then I started listening to this podcast, which I still tell everybody, if you're looking for inspiration, especially females that are in the STEM world, How I Built This by NPR is my absolute favorite. And so the first episode I ever listened to was Sarah Blakely, who founded Spanx. And of course, she invented the Spanx, the material. And she just stayed with it, and she was just tenacious, and she went for it. So podcasts and books and really looking to other people that have been successful before me and really went through hardships is what inspired me to start Excel Lifestyle. And I always think it's awesome that I didn't know anything about starting my own company, because people was like, well, if you knew how hard it would be, would you have done it? And I thought, well, if someone told me how hard it would be, I wouldn't believe them, because I know that I'm type A and I get things done. And it is the hardest thing I've ever done career-wise, for sure. It's taken way more time and way more money, but it's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. I absolutely love it. And it's funny, I invented this fabric, and I sell a product, workout clothes. But the thing that brings me the most joy is when people tell me that I've inspired them to do something, to maybe ask for the promotion that they know they deserve at work, or maybe they're in a job of engineering, they don't really like the engineering, and we kind of explore other options where they can take their interest in science, technology, engineering, or math and apply it to something else. So that's what really makes me happy about inspiring other people, specifically women. So what drove me to start Excel Lifestyle, or just really be working on the fabric concurrently while being in my corporate job, was just the knowledge that I could do it. The problem of the stinky workout clothes kept me awake at night. I literally couldn't believe that we've put people on the moon, yet there's this whole millions of people every day are working out, and their gym bags still smell, their socks still smell. Teenage sports, this clothing still smells. And so I just had this passion, and I still have it, that if you see a problem, and for me, it literally was the stinky workout clothes, that I have to do something to fix it and create a solution for it. And it was interesting, is as I was creating the fabric and doing all this research and having all these phone calls, whenever you're on YouTube or Google or anything, you kind of start getting real deep. So I'm looking at the fabric, I'm researching the science, I'm developing what I think it should feel like and how it should function. And then I start finding other things about apparel industry, and I'm reading all these articles on sweatshops and how people are treated overseas, and the chemicals that are leaking out of these factories that are making all the clothes that we're wearing, that's kind of leaking into the water of these factories, and the people are drinking. It's just this whole thing. So it was interesting that I started creating a fabric and a company in apparel, but what it really turned into was more a movement for positive change, and to show the world that you don't have to wear clothing that was made in a sweatshop just to feel confident about your clothes. So when people ask me before I launched, what's your price point going to be? I said, well, it's going to be higher end. It has to be, because I'm making everything here in the United States, so I can personally visit every factory, walk the floor, meet the owners. But also I want to prove a point that my prices can be similar to other higher end fitness apparel brands, but I know that theirs are made in sweatshop conditions and they're using chemicals. So I want to prove a point that if me, at the time, a company of one person can do this and focus on humanity and the environment with my product, so can these companies that are worth billions of dollars. You know, for a lot of women that are out there that are in a, STEM-based job, and let's say they still love STEM, but they don't love their job, there are a million opportunities. And I have women that tell me, well, Megan, what are these millions of opportunities? Because so easy. I'm like, oh, there's millions of things you could do. You go to Revlon and create lipstick. You could develop like a new insole of a high heel so your balls of your feet aren't killing you. I mean, so there's so many things you could do, but that's just the way I think. So I always empower women. If you're in a job where you still love the STEM aspect, but you don't love the job, we live in a world now like this interview right here, where there's always someone you can reach out to. Just literally Google someone or Google a product you might like and just cold call them, email them, call them, and see if they can, hop on even a 15-minute phone call and just pick their brain of how they got started. But yeah, I always say don't be afraid to ask for help. We live in a world where actually people want to help. If you ask from a place of genuine curiosity, people do want to share of their talents and their experiences with you. So if you're in a job that you're just it's just not fulfilling, but you want to stay in that world, or even if you don't want to stay in that world, I implore women just to reach out. If you're following someone on LinkedIn or Instagram and you think, man, their job is so cool, shoot them a DM, shoot them a message. You never know. They might actually respond, and chances are they probably will. So I definitely recognize that I've always been an extrovert and I have really high energy. But with that high energy, sometimes comes some low lows. So my whole life, I've struggled with anxiety, a little bit of depression here and there, but definitely anxiety. I was diagnosed 15 years ago with colitis, which is usually directly related to just being an anxious person. And I'll be 39 in a couple of months, but I have gone on medication, anti-anxiety medication, a few times over the past, let's say, 8 years. And it was really hard for me to do that at first. I'd be working out all the time. I believe in God. I would pray. I'm like, working out and praying will get me through it. But it wasn't. And so I decided to go talk to a psychologist. And it was literally one of the best things I ever did for myself. I saw it as so many people do, specifically women. I can't talk about it. It's a sign of weakness if I go talk to a psychologist. But then now that I'm much older, I'm like, absolutely not. It's a sign of strength and confidence and loving yourself to know that you can't do it alone. So in talking to her, after a while, we decided that I'm going to go on some medication. I've always struggled with sleep. Just basically like a lot of women and men too, but definitely women. You're like, oh yeah, I'm tired, time to go to bed. You finish your whole facial routine, whatever, brush your teeth. And then your head hits the pillow and like 1,000 things start coming in your brain and you literally can't shut it off. So about 4 months ago, actually, it's funny. We launched Excel Lifestyle officially about 6 months ago, and about 4 months ago, I actually went on anti-anxiety medication just to help my brain, just to shut it off. I used to be really embarrassed, and I still struggle talking about it. I mean, it's actually my first time ever openly talking about it. But I think it's important to know because, especially a woman in STEM, we're cut from a very similar cloth. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we work, and a lot of times when you work, you don't know how to shut it off. You think that you're alone in these, anxious and depressed moments, but you're not. It happens to all of us, and I just, implore you to reach out for help. And if you have to talk to someone or reach out to someone else that struggles with anxiety and depression, it's actually doing you a favor, and you'll be happy you did it.
I imagine it's tough to always stay confident when faced with such daunting challenges. Are you ready to ask them some questions? Remember, you can submit questions for the speakers through the Q&A feature on the Zoom toolbar. See you there.
Hello, welcome. I'm so happy to be your moderator today, and we're at the best part of our segment, week 2 of Discover E Global Marathon, where our theme is believe, do, and succeed. I want to again thank our guests, Janine and Megan, for being here today. I hope you enjoyed their authentic stories as much as I did. So ladies, thank you for allowing us to journey with you today. So let's get right to the questions. So this question is for the both of you. I presently work at Shell, and we have a term called control the controllables. You both spoke about some curveballs that happened in your life. In a world where life happens, especially now in the state of our country, and there is a need to mitigate the doubts, the disappointments, and possibly delayed dreams in our personal and professional lives, what are some tips you both can share to maintain a sense of balance and resilience?
Janan, you want to take this one first? Or?
Sure, however you prefer. I'm fine. Okay, maybe I can go ahead. Thank you, first of all, so much for all amazing comments. I can see the comments box and amazing sentences. Thank you all from all around the world. Has been great to be a part of this session along with Megan. So about the question, I think we all know this now. Life is very short and very unexpected. So I always personally think that we should just fulfill our life with our dreams rather than disappointments or doubts. Whenever we want to do something, of course, we can get advice from others, especially who are well more experienced than we are, like parents, friends, teachers, or mentors. But at the end, I think we should listen all and then drive our own path with our gut feelings. And whenever you have doubt, Megan also said this during her conversation, I'm sure you might find many great role models all around the world. Just send them an email, or if they don't respond to you, just send another one. I often get tens of emails from the same person, especially from Turkey, it's coming. And I try my best to answer them and try to share my advice with them. But at the end, I always say, you know yourself better than anyone else. Just takes time, listen yourself, and ask yourself, what do you want to do in coming future? Where do you want to see yourself? And then based on your answers, and by the way, these answers might change and evolve over time. There is no only one answer for that question. Especially for me, I changed my field from physics to material science, from material science to neuroscience, and now I do textile electronics. These things are changing over time based on the societal needs, your interests, and people around you. They're also changing, and the places that you are going and are also changing. So we are not constant. We are always evolving as the nature is evolving, and we are a part of the nature. And we should always make sure that we do what we like to do, because if you do what you really like to do, what you really love to do, there is no luxury of failing. All failures that you may face are actually a part of your upcoming success. So just listen your heart and brain and balance them together. And if you have doubts, then should email to the people who might find similar to you or different than you. Actually, it's better if you email people who are much more different than you in different fields, because the perspectives that you get from those people are often more helpful than the people who are very alike you. So try to get different feedbacks and perspectives from others, and talk to elderly people and young kids. You learned quite a lot from those people. And the time frame for these two generations are extremely different. And when you blend them together, I think you can find the best answers for your current situation. And we always say STEM, 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 it's all great, but also try to blend art in it. If you can, for instance, go to the museum or check different music or the different art pieces, I think you can relax yourself and find best answers for your challenges or doubts, or I don't know, the problems that you face in daily life.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you. And thank you again for having us. This has been a magical experience. I love seeing everyone's questions and comments. I guess my answer will be more focused for me, just kind of where we are in the present state today. You know, a lot of us, if maybe all of us, are working from home. And so obviously when challenging things happen or experiences that we're not used to, it kind of shift your mindset to treat it more as an opportunity. So, you know, take this time that we're home and we're not kind of doing our crazy life, or your life actually could be crazy at home. I don't have any children. Some people have all their kids home. So take this time to really think about, you know, whatever I'm doing in my life and in my job, is it truly fulfilling me? And, you know, write it out, journal it. And the answer might be yes, and that's wonderful. So how can you take it a step further? And the answer might be no. And if the answer is no, this is your time to start reaching out to people and really self-reflecting on, you know, what is truly going to make you the happiest.
Thank you both. Our next question is, I've seen confidence viewed differently in the workforce for men and for women. That is, confidence from a woman is seen as aggressive, while similar confidence is seen as decisive, leadership among men. What is your counsel to women on successfully navigating this discrepancy and being seen as a decisive leader?
I guess I'll take this one first. When I was in my mid-20s, I worked in even science, you know, predominantly male job. And all my customers were mostly male. And I remember, and my boss at the time was male. And I remember I came into the office and I don't know what I said, but I said something implying that people are treating me differently because I am a female. And I wish I recorded what he said. He's still a friend of mine today. And basically he was telling me that that was in my head, that people are treating me differently because I'm a female. And so I'm subconsciously projecting that I'm a female or less than, or giving excuses why people may be treating me differently. He said, you know, don't think about yourself as a female, think of yourself as a leader. And so I truly believed at the time that we have all these negative things that we say, like, oh, they're treating me differently because I look different, I sound different, I have an accent. And a lot of that is probably just in our own head. So I try to always present myself as a leader and a confident person, not a woman per se, but a leader and a confident person.
Well, maybe I'll follow up real quick. Not only being female, and I think for me especially, having a cultural difference also impacted me in my career. And I know I can see lots of international people on this call, so I'll refer to that as well. For me, when in science in my school, whenever I answer a question, and they were like, oh, did somebody help you? Or if I have a working device, oh, did you do it alone? Or if I have a great meeting with my advisor, I often get a response like, oh, you are a woman. Of course, he will behave well to you. Otherwise, you are very emotional. You will cry. And he doesn't like it. But it was not, or if I get an award, they were like, oh, you got the award because you are a woman. They give more support to women. But these are all not true, because I get all these things done because I work really hard. And I always see people, including my group members, we are all human beings. The science or the work that we do not depend on your gender, age, your origin, your religious beliefs, do not depend on any of these things. And when I do work, I do not like people to use subjects. We are not female or male. We are not beautiful or ugly. We are not hardworking or lazy. We are just human beings who are responsible on doing what they are supposed to do. So in terms of leadership, I think we should all just do our best, no matter how people think about you, because at the end of the day, people have, you know, they have their own views. Even though you do your best, still they may have something to say to you. So forget about all. When you do your work, just focus. focus, work, and do it as a human being who are helping other humanity all around the world.
Thank you both. Our next question, vulnerability has become a coined term in corporate America. Because STEM is such a male-dominated technology as well, field, you both spoke about asking questions and asking for help. As women, do you believe this term, vulnerability, has a positive or negative effect on our ability to respond to criticism and skepticism in the field?
Megan, I'll go first. Let's do alternating version. So in science, I think in many fields, asking questions is a good thing. And it's not, maybe I should say like this. We live in a world and we can only expand the world if we ask questions. And if we ask questions, we can also save time and also create more opportunities for us to succeed in coming steps. And for me, I like asking questions since my childhood. So it's kind of a part of my life as I'm drinking a cup of water or tea or coffee, it's the same thing. If even before starting this session, I ask many questions, how you'll receive the questions, how will answer the questions. Having information is actually better. You feel more confident. That's why we read books actually, right? It's kind of a treasure. You read and you understand more. Sorry. And you understand more about the situation. So as I said before, people all have their own views. So no matter what you do, they will say you are very skeptical, or you are very less knowledgeable, or you are very curious. That's why you are asking questions. You cannot, life is too short to change people's perspectives, but life is long enough to ask questions.
Very good. Thank you.
I feel like that should be on a t-shirt. That was wonderful. Yeah, that was great ending quote. And asking questions is so important. And then for me, I believe that being more vulnerable not only allows you to ask more meaningful questions, but also to form more meaningful relationships. As I mentioned on my video, my first time ever sharing about I'm on, medication. And that actually, in telling some close friends and family, actually has made me feel more comfortable. So in anything in life, when you ask questions and it's coming from truly who you are and what you want to know, I feel that, your relationships become more meaningful as well.
Good. So we've gotten quite a few questions with the same term, doubt. When you doubt yourself, when given an opportunity, what do you do to shake this doubt? And we have about 2 or 3 other questions where people are referring to that doubt. What do you do when you have that self-doubt in this field?
Yeah, I'll take that. And I'll start. This actually is really about anything, whether it's your field, your life, anything you're doing. I actually do a lot of mantras in my head before I give a talk or before I do anything that I feel nervous about. One of them is super simple. I just chant the word, and I say it out loud sometimes too, confidence. Like I literally say confidence, 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 confidence. And then I do whatever I'm about to do that I'm kind of nervous about. And I'm not a psychologist by any means, but it actually brings me more confidence. And then another thing I do is because of all these books I've read and people's story that I've heard, and a lot of them have very similar backgrounds, and then they're really happy and successful now. I say all the time, if they can do it, I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. And this is almost every day that I have to chant something to myself.
I agree with you. I do believe that self-encouragement, we don't do enough of that, that we literally depend on others to encourage us or to give us that hope or that word that we're looking for. And a lot of times it's already in ourselves, and we just need to, as you said, verbalize it by self-encouraging ourselves. Janai, did you want to?
This just reminds me, it's a funny story back from my childhood. When I was a little kid, one of my classmates told me, we had a very important exam, and told me that the exam is extremely difficult and I may not do it well, but he would do great. And I came home and I was sad. I came home and I told this to my mom, and my mom said, you know what, you can do it. Look at your name. It starts with C-A-N. It's can. You can certainly do it. And I was like, yes, mom, it's ingrained in my name. So I should always remember, if he can do it, Canon can do it too. So I always just remind myself my name, and I can just do it. Everybody can do it.
I totally agree with that. The next question is, when you made these large transitions in your life, did you ever second guess yourself? How did you overcome, again, that word, the doubts? And what is it about the both of you that you think allows you to be so adaptable? I know that was a trifold question, so whichever part of it you would like to take, please feel free to do so.
I'll go this time. Of course, having self-confidence is important, but I find that supportive people around us are also very much important and key players. For me, my mom, especially my mom, and initially my dad, who just encouraged me by giving me a book about Madame Curie, because he knew that I'm very much interested in science, but they didn't know how to guide me. But they gave me a book, and that book really settled down. And I even though I did not know what I really want to do, but that book sort of helped. Then I really wanted to study physics. Even right now in this century, physics is known that it's difficult and women can't do it. But my mom encouraged me that I can do it, and I can really find a job. I can do my best. And throughout my career, especially my male colleagues, helped me a lot. They encouraged me a lot. They discouraged me a lot too, but there were great key players who encouraged me a lot. And now in my research group, I actually make men and women to work together. Because if you work together, then you know how to behave each other. And you know how you see a problem and how the others see the problem in a different way. And if you have these different types of people, in terms of gender, I should say, in the same room working on similar projects, then you get great resonance. I always call it the resonance frequency, because we all have different frequencies. But if you can put these people together and understand their frequency level, then they can know how to work together and make the best work out of it. So having isolation between groups and people is not a good idea. So even though we have self-confidence, I think we should still be together with other people, even though we don't feel comfortable. Because if we do not experience uncomfort, we cannot create comfortable zones for others. So we should be all together, even though we have problems, even though we have different comments, even though we have different challenges. It's okay. It's okay. Just face. And then find your own resonance frequency with other people, and then try to do your best. Even though you have doubts, you have less confidence, it's all okay. You just need to experience it. Once you experience it, the rest is easy.
That was awesome. And you're exactly right. Once you experience any kind of doubt, or you experience success after having doubt or interacting with other people, the next time it happens, it's easier because you've already gone through it. I would say, funny you mentioned your parents. My mom was my first phone call when I decided to quit my corporate job and become an entrepreneur. And she knew that I was obsessed with creating the fabric or developing it. And she didn't go to college, and so I was kind of hesitant calling her, because I thought, we grew up in a family where you get a job, you work there for 35 years, you do your 401k, you retire at 65. So I wasn't really sure how she was going to respond. And she said immediately, yes, Megan, go for it. And to have my mom's blessing was awesome. So she's one of my biggest cheerleaders. And sometimes it's not your parents. Sometimes it's your neighbor, it's your friend, it's your colleague, more than one person. So yeah, do I ever have doubts? I had them more in the beginning of the entrepreneurship journey about 3 years ago, because I just literally didn't know what I was doing, and a challenge would happen. And I thought, oh, and I would have these like crippling, almost like I would almost go stiff and kind of stop breathing for a split second, because I thought to myself, okay, Megan, you can't do this. You don't even know who to ask for help for this challenge that just happened. And then, like anything else, you just take a deep breath and then you ask for help and you figure it out. And then the next time a challenge happens, your attitude just kind of morphs into, okay, I got this. Do I still get discouraged? Yes, all the time. But at least I kind of now have a squad related to work, related not to work, that I can ask for help.
Ladies, because we had the question of doubt come up quite a bit, and we are running out of time, I wanted to ask this question. As women, we have defined success in many ways, especially in different stages of our life. How does your definition of success today compare to your definition 5 or 10 years ago?
So success, and I touched on this, success for me and my value was always based largely on how much money I was making. And that is 100% from my upbringing. And for me, the more money I made, the more value I provided to the world, and just, the better I was. What a great question. Now, I don't do this for the money. As long as I have a roof over my head, my friends and my family and I are healthy and happy. And even if we're not, what can we do to support each other? For me, success is happiness. That's it. Inspiring other people. We're all going to, meet our maker someday, whatever our, beliefs are. And at the end of the day, when I get called home to heaven, hopefully, I want someone to say that I inspired them to do something great, that I brought joy to their life. And for me, that is the true definition of success.
I'll echo with Megan. If you ask about emotional answer, I'll say happiness. But if you ask about metrics, I will say how much failure I faced. It actually tells how successful I am, or how much success that I bring to the society. And I always tell my students, they always ask, what is the impact of our research? And I say the impact is how happy you are. Because if you are happy, then people around you would be happy. And if the people around you are happy, then the work that they will do will be happy. And then eventually the rest of the circles will be happy. So happiness is important, and failures are important. We should not be afraid of failures. We should fail. The more we fail, the best we will do.
So Megan and Janai, we actually are at the hour, but participants, if you would like to stay on the line an extra 10, 15 minutes to continue asking questions and hearing from my guest panelists, you are welcome to do so. We do understand that some people may have a hard stop at this moment. So ladies, if you are okay, we will continue with a couple of more questions. And this question is for Megan. How did you manage to gather your team together for such a interdisciplinary project? And I apologize, I'm sorry. This is for Janai. How did you manage to gather your team together for such an interdisciplinary project? Did you reach out by investigating their research, or did you know some of them already? How did you choose the right people? And thank you for being such a role model. Lots of love from Turkey.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the question. How I select my students, they usually apply to my group, and I usually post an advertisement about the criteria that I'm interested in. I do not care about their GPA. I do not care about their backgrounds, but I care about what kind of dream ideas that they have. So, and if that dream resonates with my own existing current dreams, research dreams that we have in our group, then we do an interview. And I'm not the only one who does the interview. All my group members do an interview. And Megan said so amazing thing a couple of minutes ago about values. in my group, we also studied the values of our group. For instance, the common value of my group is integrity. How great work we do and how we report it in a nice manner so that it will be reproducible. And all around the world, people can do the similar experiments with rice reproducibility. So integrity is very important for us. And I care about the values of the people who are applying to our group as well. How transparent they are, how likely they share their knowledge with each other, because the things that we do are really taking time, and we don't want people to repeat the things from scratch. Rather, we want people to share these things. So I care about how open-minded they are, how kind they are, how talkative they are, because you need to talk and share the things. And I also like to check the energy level. For instance, Megan's energy is amazing. I think she would be great to have in our lab, or I would be great to be in her team. So the energy is also very much important. And I have different members from different fields, such as I have designer in my group. I have physicists, material scientists, mechanical engineers, medical doctors, and electrical engineers. So it's great to blend all these fields and find a solution, an unmet solution, by combining these fields all together. So I usually do not select my students alone, but we select the group members collectively based on our group values.
It seems like you have done a great job in listening to you. The way you do select your students is what they know is wonderful, but who they are is just as important. So yes. I like the way that you spoke to the person, because a lot of times we're asked to bring our skills and our knowledge to the job, but we're told to leave our person or who we really are at home. So I appreciate you saying that, especially with young students. Creating that element in the beginning is so very important. Megan, I do have a question for you. Now that you've solved the problem of stinky clothes, what motivates you? And what is another problem that you like to solve?
That's the proof. Which one am I going to take first? So people have said once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. So now everywhere I look, I'm like, we can do that better. We can design that better. And so, but there's not enough hours in the day. So stinky workout clothes, basically the fabric that I designed specifically for t-shirts, specifically for men and women for shirts. And so right now I'm actually designing and inventing fabric for leggings for men and women, which will kind of go into underwear as well. It's similar. So once I've already gone through the t-shirt, I mean, it's a very similar process. I already have most of the team in place. It's just a lot of trial. Takes about 3 months to make a piece of sample fabric, and then I send it away for testing. And a lot of times that testing does not come back to my standards, so you have to kind of redesign the fabric. Again, can you repeat the second part of the question?
I can. What's another problem that you like to solve, and what motivates you?
So another problem I'd like to solve is kind of a personal story. So we officially launched Excel Lifestyle last August. And so we had all these shirts and, we're doing well, we're selling in stores or whatever. And I wanted to do something give back. I always like to give back. And so with October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I said, let's design like a cool picture for our Excel Lifestyle shirts. And we'll give part of the proceeds to breast cancer nonprofit here in Houston, where I live. And then I'll choose one back in Rhode Island. And I know the one back in Rhode Island because I'm from there. So, no big deal. Did that, designed the graphic, gave part of the proceeds. It was, a beautiful experience. I went back to Rhode Island for a conference, an event for breast cancer survivors and thrivers and women and men currently going through treatment. And make a long story short, I saw a girl that I went to high school with, young woman, married, child, stage 4 breast cancer, lost all of her hair, and it just touched me. I gave her some Excel Lifestyle clothes, and she and her friends were crying. And I thought to myself, I'm just giving you clothes. And so, but I carried that feeling back here. And what I'm actually working on right now, so full disclosure, my hair used to be 13 inches longer. So when I drove back, or I flew back here in October, I kind of had that feeling where, okay, there's a problem. This girl, what can I do for her? I don't have a lot of extra money because I'm an entrepreneur, but I thought, I wonder if she'd want a wig. And so I donated my hair to make her a custom wig. But here's the problem. I thought it would be easy, that I would just find a custom wig maker. We would take the measurements of her head. We would take my hair and make a wig. It took me 3 weeks to find a company to make a custom wig. So right now I'm putting together a team here in Houston to actually start our own company to make custom wigs for people. So like I always say, if my mom ever got diagnosed with any kind of cancer, or dad or whatever, and lost their hair, how beautiful would it be to have hair from family and friends make that wig? So that's what I'm working on now, as with all of our free time.
Yeah. So how both of you were determined to create platforms for others where they can share learnings, create thoughts, dreams, and goals. How important is it in creating space in engineering and tech for other women to share their ideas and skills now and in the future?
Let me go for it. And Megan, by the way, we should maybe talk offline. We also work on a platform for breast cancer research. We are developing an electronic bra so that women can wear and check their breast conditions once in a while in a very faster fashion. So I think there are a lot that we can do together. Yeah.
Talk to both of you all.
Yeah, sure. And for about the new generation of young women, and I would say new generation of all, actually, man and woman together. I think we should see them together as a whole. And for me personally, and actually maybe I should say first, as a team, we wanted to encourage young generation with exhibition, art blended science exhibition, first ever science exhibition at the main lobby of Media Lab last fall, all the way to summer. And so we had an exhibition in which people can see and can come and see what kind of research that we do and how we can get inspiration. But also personally, I sleep actually 2 hours less every Sunday. And last 4 years, I have been doing this. And I do mentorship. People, students from different perspectives, different fields actually, they approach to me. And I have a quite large network. And they ask me questions. And if I don't know the answer, then I link them to another person in my network so that we can create a kind of a chain so that people can share information. And I do this just through online platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Skype, Zoom. Now we live in a global world. It doesn't really matter where we are physically. I think we can do a lot by just using these amazing platforms. And when we say young generation, I think that we are all great. And the young generations are especially so great using smartphones and computers. I think the world should be much easier for them to connect because they are much familiar with this technology. So, and we should always think not only we are, and especially young minds as well, for the much future generation, we are not enough to do great impactful research alone. So we should do it all together. And if you want to do it together, then we need to transfer our knowledge and experience to others in a faster fashion so that impact can come in a faster fashion too. We should not let others to invent everything from scratch. Whether we should, and this is also very important, we should report, we should write. Writing is extremely important. And we should record these videos, for instance, so that people can watch it again and again without taking notes. And share this with multiple people all around the world with the technology and find solutions in a collective manner rather than individual manner. So inspiration is important and sharing is extremely important. And many people are asking how we share this knowledge. And it's very open, it's very public. We can just search our names on YouTube or Google, just Google it. You will find everything in a very instant way.
Megan, would you like to take this down?
Sure, I definitely need to get better. I mean, I'm on social media, but I mean, even this video for me, just being part of it has been extremely inspiring. And just seeing all the comments and videos come in. One thing I love to do is get people riled up and be one of their biggest cheerleaders. So actually here in Houston, I host quite a few events, just bringing together all types of people from all types of background. I think it's important to hang out and talk and ask questions to people that don't look like you, aren't from where you are, don't sound like you. And that I think is beautiful. And one thing I just did a couple weeks ago, we were standing in a circle, it was at an event, it was kind of closing, and there were 10 of us. And I knew all 10 people, but they didn't know each other. And I just said, let's just take literally 1 minute, 90 seconds or whatever around and tell everyone what you do. Give your Instagram handle and how maybe we can help. And so I truly believe in kind of getting everyone riled up and being their cheerleader. And I need to get better on that because I think to myself, I'm not really sure how, but I'll figure it out. Because like if I did 10 people at a meeting and that was incredible, like what could we all do together collectively on social media and all that, where we can, you know, touch more lives and bring people more together and let them know that they're not alone.
I totally agree with you. There are so many platforms for information sharing. And as Janai said, please, simple things like Googling a person's name. You talked about, Megan, the books and the podcast. I think once you really start going to these social media sites or podcasts, you'll just find out more that's out there and you'll learn more and it'll just continue to expand and expand. And sometimes it can get overwhelming because there's so much information out there that we did not know and we want it all. We want to be like a sponge and absorb it all. But it is really at our fingertips. Information is so readily available now. And we live in a great time and season of our lives. This message is, this question is for Janai. Have you ever been disappointed in your career journey? And if you have, how did you handle it?
Of course I did, many times, even now, all the time, I would say. But it's a part of the life. I see it that way. For instance, I have lots of frustrations during my experiments, during my personal life. But as I said before, struggles that we face every day can be turned into something beautiful. It could be a beautiful response as a piece of a device. It could be a beautiful response of a poem that you may write, or it could be a beautiful response of an art piece that you may draw, or a food that you may cook, or make a cup of tea or coffee. So I think frustrations are important. It's okay, and it's a part of our nature. It's for all living subjects. It's the same. So we are not different from those things. We are a part of the nature. So being disappointed, frustrated, should be all fine. These are all natural things, but it's important how quick that you can overcome. And the time frame to recover is actually depending on you, how much you know yourself better. You may want to reward yourself with a short walk, or you may want to reward yourself with a phone call, or sending a short email, or I don't know, many of the things that you may think of. But I think the more you know about yourself, I think it's much easier for you to recover. And Megan also gave an amazing example during her conversation, saying that he went to a doctor. It's an amazing thing. You know the problem, you acknowledge the problem. We should all acknowledge the problem and then take an action to solve the problem in a timely manner. And again, the key question is how much you know yourself, how much you can get out of yourself. And it all depends how much you listen to yourself.
And it's through the disappointments that you really find out about yourself, right? If it was all about success, you really wouldn't know your bandwidth, as I like to say, or what you're really capable of. It's in those tight moments, it's in those moments where we are just at the end of our ropes, where we're frustrated, where we feel like we've reached the dead end, where we find just around the corner, there's still another road less traveled that we can take. We know the saying that says, it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to what happens. And I think there is no success story without hearing how a person responds to the failures, right? That's where we really get the empowerment, is how did you respond to what happened to you? Megan, this question is for you. If you had not had the support of your husband, would you still have pursued your dream?
Woo!
Wait, that is a no.
No one's ever asked me that before. Let's see. So, yes, and I'll tell you why. It wouldn't have probably been stinky workout clothes because my husband, you know, he wasn't living here. So let's just pretend I didn't have my husband in the picture at all. Yes, I'd like to believe I would, and I did not share this story. What drives me and when stuff gets really challenging is my father passed away of a massive heart attack when he was 58. And so I didn't know my husband then. And I remember I was like my dad's like ride or die chick. And so I, you know, flew back home suddenly to Rhode Island, and the family, because I'm in sales and outgoing, they asked me to give my dad's eulogy. And I gave it to him, or gave it to everyone. I had everyone like, you know, laughing, crying, etc. And it dawned on me it was kind of like that experience I had walking out of Brown, that like lab life's not for me. I had this this feeling that came over me, and it was like, to me, it was God. It's like, you know, you can be doing so much more with your life. I don't know what it is. Like, I know you love medical sales. I don't know what it is. So at that moment I said, all right, God, just give me the power to like open my mind, and like whatever this next phase of my life is, just give me the patience for it, I guess, and make sure my mind is open to receive it. And it just so happens that was my husband, stinky workout clothes, quit my job, ... But I truly believe that if it wasn't Kyle and that path, it would have been something else. And of course, I would do anything today, anything to have my dad back, like no questions asked. I talk to him every day. But if I didn't experience that, or my roommate passing away in college, I wouldn't have had the strength to know that I can do whatever the HELL I want. Am I going to fail at it? Sure I am. Are there going to be challenges? Sure. But we're blessed to even have this opportunity to pursue these challenges. And I'm grateful for where I live. And yeah, I would have done it. It would have been something else. I don't know what that would have been.
Thank you for being authentic with that, because I don't think any of us can really say we've never had that experience where I call it the fork in the road, where you're so afraid to cross over because it's different from where you're coming from, definitely different where you're going. And most people would love for you to go left or right, but to keep going forward in the way that you're going, it can be stressful. I believe sometimes making the decision from going from corporate America to entrepreneur, going from reinventing yourself, where you may have been like Junai, you go from science to technology to this, and people don't want you to do that. They kind of want you to stay in their box. So going back to what both of you say, you really do have to know yourself, and you really do have to listen to your own self, because I don't think any of our own selves would lead us wrong, right? But we just kind of like, for whatever reason, the outside noise to influence us. So thank you for that. That was a very authentic answer. Last question, what was, and this is for both of you, was there a time when you wanted to give up? And what did you do to overcome that feeling?
I did actually once. Yes, it was during my PhD, and 3 years actually none of my projects worked. And but my advisor was very supportive, and so my family was. And one time it was too difficult and nothing worked, and I don't know how come. How can I just make it better? And we know a lot of Turkish people right now on the channel, so they will definitely know the name of the dessert. It's called şekerpare. It's a special dessert, and it's the only dessert that I can cook and bake and cook. And I was very disappointed, and I didn't know what to do. Experiment was not working for months, for years, and I was almost giving up. I didn't say I gave up, by the way. I should note that, but I was almost giving up. And then I cooked a whole tray of şekerpare, special Turkish dessert, just to boost my energy up, and I ate all at one time, like all together. I ate all. I was crying and eating at the same time. And then right after it said, I was like, okay, I ate all. Now I can restart. So it was my breaking point. And I always remember that dessert wherever I go somewhere. And if I have that dessert available, I eat that dessert and remember that time. But yes, one time I was almost giving up, but that dessert saved me.
Good.
Okay, I love that story. I'm going to be sharing it with like all my friends. To tie food into it was awesome. I mean,
Oh, especially dessert.
exactly.
And now I will actually, people are asking the name. I will send the link. By the way, I'm not a sweet tongue. I don't like to consume lots of sweets, but it was the first time ever I finished whole tray, and I still don't know how come I did that.
She's like,
I was
"The
proud
first
of
time
myself.
ever, it wasn't the last." I would say, as far as giving up, I can't really think of a time, but the only thing I can really think of is when I was still in corporate America and working and cold calling these fabric and yarn scientists on the East Coast. And I just had these literally these crippling feelings of, I can't do this, because they would say things, and or I would do the research, or I'd get my, sample fabric back from the antimicrobial testing, and there was a bunch of bacteria in the fabric. So I definitely had these crippling moments of, I can't do this, but they didn't last long. That's the thing. Like, we're all human, and it's important to, if you're sad about something, be sad. If you're happy, be happy. But, work and knowing yourself and being resilient. So I would be sad and, upset about it and mad, or maybe say a few cuss words to let it out, but I would allow myself those 10 minutes and then just, okay, there is a solution to every problem. And that's something also that one of my mantras I say there. So when a problem exists, there is a solution to it. I don't know when it'll be discovered. I don't know how we'll figure it out. I just know if you just stick with it, ask for help, and surround yourself with that team, you'll figure it out. Probably never on your own time schedule. It'll probably take longer than you expect, but just stick with it.
Great answers. Both of you attribute. Sometimes we will have, especially as women, we'll have those emotional moments, whatever they are. And to your point, Megan, feel it. Don't deny it. Don't try to push it away. Feel it. I remember in one of my corporate jobs, I had a good friend, and we actually became best friends now, where we literally would go in each other's office, and we called it the 3 minute. So for 3 minutes, you just got to say, curse, do whatever it is you needed to say. But once you finished, the other person didn't respond, they would go, okay, your 3 minutes is up. And then you take a deep breath and you go back to your desk and you keep going. So sometimes we just need an out. We just need a funnel. We just need a dessert just to emote. But never make would you all agree, major decision during that moment, because it will pass. That feeling will pass. That emotion will pass. And then afterwards, I love your response, Megan. Seek some help. Talk it over with some people. Get some guidance. Those are the times you call your mentors and or you have that conversation with someone that you really respect in the field. Okay, are you guys okay for one more? You guys okay? All right. So Megan, I'm interested in how you placed a monetary value on your time when you started your business and project. I have a small side business, basically providing an outlet for a passion, and I constantly undervalue my product as I struggle with asking for money to cover my time.
Can you repeat the last part, please? That was.
I can. And I constantly undervalue my product as I struggle with asking for money to cover my time.
Woo-wee! So, if you're undervaluing your product, you're really undervaluing your own self-worth and what you're projecting to everyone around you. So I just want to make sure I think I understood it correctly. You have a side product, passion project. You're not assigning, you're devaluing your product and yourself. And if you're asking for, if I'm hearing this correctly, investors possibly asking for money for the product?
I think she maybe even in selling her product or whatever she's services or whatever she's doing, maybe she doesn't charge what she needs to charge to cover her time and the product, I would think is what she's saying.
I would cover, it's tough because it's actually very difficult because when I left my corporate job, a business coach said to me, you know, your time is money. And I'm like, what is that? You know, we all see that quote, like, time is money. I'm like, what does that really mean? I'm like, I'm not selling a product yet. So how do I even, you know, put my time on it? But sounds like she already has a product to sell. It's important to not devalue your brand meaning your company as well as yourself. So if she's selling a product or a service, I'm making this number up, that she thinks is valued at truly $100 an hour, then do it at $100 an hour and test the market, test the waters, because if you undervalue yourself and your product, even in your marketing, that may be coming across subliminally. So don't do anything to like devalue your brand or your product. And if you think, you know, if you and your friends and family and people you know are telling you that you're worth more, you should be charging more, rip off that Band-Aid and do it.
Love it. All right. This is for both of you. I can't decide what I love and what I want to do. And I'm a little scared that I can't decide. Did you experience this? And if so, what did you do?
For me, before I start any experiments, I feel nervous, which is good because it is very unknown. And being scared is okay as long as the amplitude of scaredness is manageable. But again, I think we'll come to the same conclusion. You can only find what you really want to do if you know yourself and if you know what you really want to do in coming days. And one thing to know that, to investigate and understand what you really want to do, is to read. You can expand the world while it is getting shrinked if you ask questions and read more. And now we are in a world where we can access the information through many channels, all the way from books to the internet. So, and talking with others. For me, personally, I like to read biographies of people who have been key players in history. I like to read their failures, successes, their turning points in their lives, sort of giving me clues about my situations. And also I like to talk, as I said before, with kids and elderly people and get their perspectives about life and next steps that I want to take. And seeking information and advice from other people whom I feel, whom I admire, whom I see as a role model.
and I believe it's important to, I mean, women in STEM are pretty methodical, data driven, 1 + 1 = 2. And so I actually write a lot. Do I get scared? Yes, all the time. All the time. And so for the woman who asked the question about she's not really sure what she wants to do, I would say, if she hasn't done it already, a couple things. Take out a paper and pen and make 2 columns. One thing, things you love to do or you're great at, and then one that you're not, so you can just push those out of the way. Or you just focus on the positive, what you love to do, what you're great at. And another key part is ask people what you're great at. A lot of times, and I don't know if it's a woman thing or a man thing, I don't know, but we're great at a lot of things, but it's tough for us to say, oh, I'm great at X, Y, and Z. So get input from people around you that what they could see you doing. And someone may say like, oh, you'd be a great salesperson. You never really thought of yourself as a person that would enjoy sales. So it's nice to ask people that really know you. And then honestly, people that don't really know you that well, because they have perceptions of you in the first few seconds they meet you. So write down a list of things you love to do and you're great at, and then ask people in your circle or people that don't know you that well, what they believe you're great at and that you would excel at. And being scared is okay. I remember one of the first business books I read, I can't remember, like 3-4 years ago, it said, whether you make $5,000 a year or $5 billion a year, everyone deals with fear. Everyone has fear.
Janae, Megan, it has been an awesome time with you ladies. I know I've learned a lot, and you guys have shared an amazing with our panelists and our guests. I want to thank you both very much. I believe that we have definitely completed our task and did it well in helping the women believe, helping the women do, and helping the women succeed. So thank you so much. As stated, I do want to connect with you, Megan, here in Houston. I do believe there are some things that we can definitely work on. It has been a tremendous, I feel like I had the best seat in the house. Thank you, and listening to both of you. But I really want to applaud both of you on being so authentic. That to me was very refreshing and so welcoming. So I believe we are at the end of our session. Once again, ladies, you can Google, LinkedIn, social media, both of our guests, find out their stories, continue to follow them. Don't forget next week, week 3 of our session, next Wednesday, March 25th, same time, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for session 3. Until then, everybody have a great afternoon.
Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.